Got the 2010 Cadillac CTS with that 3.0 in there. One of a couple things. I'm just a little disappointed, man. Look, I got my channel specifically to help people out, and I kind of understand why other people block other people that just usually want to be an internet mechanic. And I completely understand that. You know, people read something online and they feel as though they're the most intelligent person in the world, reciting what somebody else told them, just adopt another person's personality, and just doesn't have any genuine integrity. Here's the thing. All right. I'm all for constructive criticism. Just don't come and tell me what I'm doing wrong. And like I say, I'm all for constructive criticism. I don't like censoring people. I leave the most heinous type comments in the comment section in some of my old videos. It's just everybody's gonna milk a cow a different way. I don't know where the hell it came from, but everybody's gonna do what they're gonna do. They're gonna skin a cat a different way, whatever. But you know you are, and man, look, I know you've been here since ride or die, but I'm gonna block you and put it that way. Just understand, we're all, like I said, we're all gonna do it a different way. And even just to address what he stated in the comment section, the pressure transducer. You don't need to do a waveform or over-exaggerate a diagnosis just to sit there and be all sophisticated and shit. That's just not me. If there's a time and place for everything, time is money. When you have a lot of volume, you're not going to sit there and you're not going to pull a Scanner Danner or South Main Auto. You know, sometimes you got to get Scotty Kilmore or Chris Fix. You know, it's experience. I'm not going to sit here and do a crank cam correlation when there's common sense. There's common sense themes that correlate with certain symptoms and certain issues. You're going to have certain symptoms with certain issues, put it that way. So this car had timing problems. I'm not going to do a crank cam correlation when it's quicker to just swap the components that potentially causes timing problems, such as the VVT, the oil control solenoids, the cam position sensors. Even though the cam position sensors are rarely going to fail, just swap them and see if the problem moves. If the problem moves, one of those parts that I've swapped were the culprit. A crank cam correlation isn't going to tell you what's defective, when it can potentially tell you that you have timing problems, but it's not going to specify what component's defective, when at the end of the day you're going to have to backtrack and swap those parts anyway just to see if you're correct or incorrect in your analysis. So it's like an hour and a half of hooking up, looking over information, trying to find waveforms just to see if you're correct in what you assess if the timing's off, when the car is already telling you the timing's off. There's a bunch of PID information that you can look into the PCM and see if there's missing teeth or if there's some issues or falling off. But just like any other vehicle, you'll have a misfire counter, but with the crank or cam position sensor. You know, if there was something missing teeth, the vehicle would have picked that up. Here's the thing, and this is why I did not do a crank cam correlation, because again, it's irrelevant. The bank that was affected was just one bank, not both banks. These have a tendency to potentially move the gear on the crank, but understand, when you change the base, the crankshaft timing, everything else is going to be affected. Okay, so it kind of negated the whole fact of having to do a crank cam correlation when just one bank was affected, not both. I mean, this is just like common sense here. And take into consideration, time is money. Again, you gotta get dumb. You just gotta dumb down things when it comes to diagnosing these things, and just go to directly what would be the main contributor. Sometimes you may be wrong, but typically, you know, you skip a lot of stuff just to get to the nitty gritty of it. You know, more than likely you're going to be right. So, and if I'm wrong, I got personal accountability, just like I'm going over this vehicle here and letting you know that, hey, I'm correct. Just like I got videos in the past saying that, look, hey, I screwed up. This motor, I potentially screwed up. But that motor lasted 7 months, okay? 7 whole months. So, but I'll show that stuff. I have personal accountability. Put it away. Worry about your own channel, get monetized, and make your own money. I'll take care of my stuff. All right. So anyway, so what's going on here is the timing. Remember, it was on the bank 1. I'm going to show you what it looks like on a fully functioning bank. Remember, bank 2 was perfectly fine. Here's a new timing chain I got here. This is Chloe's timing chain. I got a whole set sitting in there. So here between these two links, well, these two black indicators, is 12 links. On the driver side here, let me show you. On the driver side, everything is properly lined up between these two white dots. The circle is going to be properly indicated for the driver side or bank 2, and the triangular shapes are going to be for bank 1 here. But there's 12 links between these two dots. Timing chain's tight. However, with those triangular marks, there's 12 links, and there's a stretched timing chain here. It's really loose. So, and I wasn't going to go through the whole spew of just doing a crank camber correlation. Totally unnecessary when you're still going to eventually have to tear it down and just inspect the parts. I mean, the timing gear could have been worn out. The actuating gear could have been messed up. Could have been stuck with the oil control valve. That's why I swapped all those things out. Again, problem didn't move, and this is what we got. So I'm going to get everything torn down. I'm going to replace the guides. I'm replacing the actuators, those phaser, the gears, or whatever you want to call them. Of course, the chains, rollers, everything's getting taken care of. So, and of course, I'm putting new spark plugs while they're accessible. So let me get this torn down. We'll go back and look at some PID data, but I'm going to prove to you that this is a confirmed fix, because when I would shut the car down, start it back up, the light would immediately manifest. So once we get this replaced, everything's in time. We shouldn't have those issues anymore. So I got all my fasteners down. I'm just in the midst of pulling off the timing cover. I just want to let people know, if you're making an attempt to pull this off, the directions stated I needed to pull off the power steering pump and the AC compressor to access that. I wasn't going to do all that. So what I did was I just took my power steering pump pulley removal and just, since this is a press on, and just pulled it off. Took the fastener out for the upper bracket here for the power steering pump, because that goes into the upper portion of the timing cover. And that was it. I didn't take all that crap off. I just was not, even the alternator. So I probably saved myself a couple hours. The bolt was a little hard to get off with the impact gun because it's worn out. Simply, I just put some heat to the bolt. I'm going to change the crank seal anyway. Got it hot, things expand, and just ran it off. My impact gun sucks, unfortunately. It's like the 8th one I had. So I'm in the midst of pulling all this off. And, oh yeah. The fastener for, there's a, uh-oh, my light done died on me. So there's a little threaded port here, so where you can run a fastener through to extract the timing cover to help pull against it, so you don't have to pry on anything. And this is the port here. And the fastener I used was the one that went to the power steering bracket at the top there, so it worked just fine to fit in this little spot by the water pump. And once you run in there, you want to make sure all your fasteners out, because you're going to crack that housing real easy. So if you want to tuck back here just to give you an overview. There's some other ones there. Everyone is pretty much accessible with the impact gun, 13 millimeter, and just came right on out. So yeah, that little leak there, if you were wondering, this from it overheating a while ago. That's the reason why I had to replace the water pump and the outlet housing. This is that vehicle from the old video. All right, let's get it off. Here's our timing chain here, the bank one. If you want to get a visual at the bottom of everything, there's our primary chain here. Here's our secondaries. Okay, I didn't know that. The bank one here sits ahead of the bank two. Interesting. Now I know. So yeah, I guess I'm pretty sure it's all the way extended out. So I got the engine in service mode. Okay, there's some brackets, some retainers for the cam. I'm gonna show you those. But the cam, the crank, little notch is facing straight up. I got the tools here for the cam locked in place. They're on both banks. I'm going to show you how loose this timing chain is here. So this is one, this is bank one. Bank two is loose also. So these both are not where they need to. I started to take the tensioner out and realized, like, oh shoot, I didn't put it in service mode. So I'm gonna get this loose, and then we'll see if it's overextended, which it looks like it is. Now you can see that little clean area right there. You know, like this untouched territory here. So I'm gonna get gonna take all the stuff off. This oil looked like it was maintained. Again, this car only had 105,000 miles on it. So all the stuff is gonna be tight, and we're gonna look at the deflection. I don't have the tool, strangely, to measure the deflection or anything, but we'll see the difference once we get the new chains on here. So it's the next day. I got the timing chain, everything's on there like it's supposed to. The problem was I had to change the intake actuator, simply because the new gear didn't come with the Teflon thrust washer, and unfortunately I can't. I was just going to have to reuse those. Like I said, the car got low mileage anyway, so I don't think we're going to have any problems. And the Gates one that I ordered off Rock Auto didn't come with it. The standard motor product that I ordered offline came with the washers, so that worked out fine. So I mean, there's some specific information you have to be wary of, whether it's a 5 fastener type gear, or if it's a 4. So thing that I looked up, I found that all the aftermarket ones on Rock Auto were 4, but again, it didn't come with thrust washers. So the Gates ones didn't. The standard came with it. They worked fine. When they got them on there, they rotate like it's supposed to. But when I put the new one on there with the standard thrust washer, it got locked up and it didn't turn easily. And I didn't feel comfortable like putting everything back together and rotating the engine. Maybe it would have wore itself into it. I wasn't going to chance it, because this is too big to be tearing down again. And I know for a fact that these timing chains were jacked up. So here's our slack now on the new timing chains. The tensioner has really good tension. Here's one that's a little slack, but it hasn't built up tension yet on the timing chain tensioner. So it's a lot better than what it was. I'm in the midst of just getting my crank seal in place, and I'm going to put some sealing around the outer edges here and get everything installed like it's supposed to. Now, I'll be honest, I did not change the guide at the bottom down here, simply because I didn't feel comfortable pulling the guide off the rail, and then secondly, I didn't want to remove the fastener because I didn't want to mess up the potential I didn't want to have a potential leak from the oil pump. So I left that in there, and it looked perfectly fine, to be honest. And if even in the manufacturer technical service bulletin, if it was something, you would have to have a developed groove in there to be replaced, and it's perfectly fine. So if anything happened, I mean, the car's gonna be taken care of. But the biggest issue was those timing chains there. So yeah. So I'm gonna get everything cleaned up. I got new valve cover gaskets and everything. New spark plugs in here. So we're gonna get those taken care of. Oh boy. Let's see here. The sealant that you put in here, just like in the other one, like Toyotas or so. Like, you have these little grooves that you gotta fill in all around here. Then you gotta fill the little holes, the fastener holes here around where the water pump goes. And I'm gonna put like a black glue around here if we don't have this seal here in the part store. But based on how it's designed, it shouldn't leak. But yeah, I still could just put like sealant inside of here, or I might just leave it. Who knows? Don't know yet. But I'm gonna get everything back together, and we'll start up and see what it sounds like, and hopefully everything works. It's in time, so let's see what happens. Put back together. It's that magic moment to start it up, and I'm nervous as hell. So I expect it to probably hesitate, miss a little bit, rattle for the initial 2-3 seconds, but it should clear up immediately, assuming everything put together right. Whew. Wow. All right. Let's see what happened. If I broke something, or if everything's gonna work. So I'm gonna start it up and just shut it down immediately. All right, so it rattled, and it did shut down on its own. Not sure as to why. The mass airflow map, everything's hooked up properly. The good thing is, it's not like, it don't sound like it's missing any compression or anything. Alright, I'm gonna go to the control unit, see what codes are in the PCM. You know, likely when I turn the key on, with everything disconnected, trigger a code, and GM have a tendency to throw a bunch of stuff. Crankshaft position, exhaust. So that's So it passed this run and failed pass, so that's fixed. And all these are my fault because I cut the key on. So hopefully I clear all this, it should work. I'm hoping. All right, let's see what happens. Everything hooked up properly. Let's see what codes came back immediately. Well, that's strange. There's no fault codes detected. It's weird. Hopefully I figured out why I didn't put the PCV system back in there, and it has a really bad intake leak. So we all make mistakes. Let me put this back in here. See what happens. Look, that scared me, to be honest with you. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? But I knew the timing was right, but man, that had me nervous. Let's see if we got any codes that came back immediately. Based on what we just saw a little while ago. As far as the pass and fail, we should be fine. So remember, in the past video, when I shut the car down and started back up, the code would come immediately to p0017. And it's none. I'm gonna do a crank relearn. I'm gonna go back out and just go back in. Yep, no fault codes. Cool. I'm gonna do a crank relearn. That's the feature that's in the computer here, and I'm gonna get the coolant system taken care of and let it run, burn off the oil and check the leaks. All right, so the car is knocked out. She is done. Everything's working perfectly fine, and I'm excited about it because my belt's like really legitimately worried that when I went to initially start up, it damn thing didn't run. But I'm like, the car is pretty intelligent. I'll give it credit because it has so many position sensors. It can determine whether something's out of time or not. Even with the chain being so, it was so out of time. I mean, I wish I would have recorded the two link chains together, because the bank that was defective was like, I want to say like 1/4 of an inch longer, so it did like stretch essentially. But it's working perfectly fine now. All the new stuff, with the exception of that one guy. Like I said, I didn't feel comfortable putting it on there, but just inspecting it, it looked perfect. So it wasn't stressed out or anything. It didn't have any grooves, so everything worked perfect with that. The biggest tip I can give as far as replacing this was not to remove the AC compressor, and just take a pulley removal tool, pull the power steering pump pulley, so that way you don't have to get the clearance to take the fastener from the tensioner out, which you have to remove to take the timing cover out. So that's the biggest tip I got, and it saved me quite a few hours, and it made this job very easy in comparison to the Ford. What was it? What size motor was those? I had to do the water pump. The one you gotta take the time and do the timing chain, do the water pump. The Ford Flex, the 3.5s. I will do these all day. Everything was accessible with the electronic driver and the impact gun. So I'll do these all day if I had to again. Other than that, again, I mean, I hate to even go back. I diagnose the vehicles I diagnose because in the way I do diagnose them, simply because I mean they're efficient. This job was done in an expedient fashion. I mean, 2 days. I took 2 days to do it because I wanted to triple check my timing, make sure everything was right. If I put all this stuff back together, it wasn't that bad. I literally, the labor time on this is 13 hours by the book. I can do this easily without having to take all the other stuff off within 8 hours if I had to do it again. I mean, run right through it. But like I said, I took my time. I did it within, I want to say, 10 hours. You know, not rushing. Make sure everything was done right. Triple checked everything. But again, it's done. If anything happened with this will just be a tag with the other video in the description. But if anything definitely happens, I'll definitely update. But other than that, hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, have the reassurance of my work. See you next one.